Hey, Chandler Bolt here, and in this video, I want to talk about my top 5 leadership and CEO development books of all time. Now, one of the most common questions I get asked is, Chandler, what are your favorite books? Or Chandler, how do you grow as a leader? And obviously, I've got some videos on how to become a better leader and training there. But whether it's emerging leaders inside self-publishing school or other entrepreneurs I know who want to become a better leader, they're always asking like, hey, what can I read? What recommendations do you have? Things like that. So I put together my top 5 best leadership books. Now, I'm a firm believer that your business growth and really the growth of anything starts and ends with leadership. So leadership used to be for me kind of this airy-fairy like, let's talk about some other things that don't matter and that don't work. We should talk about management. And I was really good at management, but I was a really poor leader. And so I devoted, really it's been years of my life, and it was the theme for my entire year. I think this was in 2017. It was the theme of becoming a better leader. And then in 2018, it was in maximizing others. So essentially leadership just rebranded to the people around me. So trust me when I say I've read so many books on this. I've went way down the rabbit trail, and these are the 5 books that I think are the best. Book number 1, Extreme Ownership. Now, this is a book by Jocko Willink. It's a really cool format. And so this is actually, I've got another video that's my top 10 most impactful books of all time. And this is actually on that list as well because it's that good. So Extreme Ownership, I read this at a time where, I was blaming other people. It's very easy as a leader to say, oh man, it's my employees' fault, it's my customers' fault, it's my business partner's fault, just point the finger everywhere else. And I actually had one of my best people quit. And this was kind of the first gut punch for me that, oh, Chandler, you're actually just a really bad leader. And so that's what sent me off this whole, on this whole path of reading all these books. But Extreme Ownership was one of the first ones that I read, and it really forced me to do exactly what the title says. Take extreme ownership. And so everything in your business, every problem in your business, in your company, in your job, on your team, is your fault. Okay? So taking extreme ownership over those things. And this is actually not quite required reading internally at self-publishing school, but it's one of the highest recommended books that I recommend to new employees. So Extreme Ownership, it's a great book. Talks about the leadership principles learned in combat. So Jocko is actually a former Navy SEAL, and he talks about all the things that he learned being in combat, and then kind of goes back and forth between there's a business principle and then a story to back it up from combat. So that's what's really cool is it helps these principles stick. So there's a handful of principles that he covers, and there's always a story to help you remember it. Book number 2, Turn the Ship Around. Now this is what I think is kind of a hidden gem. I never hear this book recommended by anyone. And actually a friend of mine, Shane Mack, I was just grilling into him about his leadership philosophy, all those things. And he said, I really try to follow the leader-leader model. It's like, what's that? He said, the leader-leader model. So where you're building leaders, not just teaching or giving orders to followers. And so I've got another video called I Intend To, where I cover this main principle from Turn the Ship Around. It's just completely changed my business. But this book is all about, it's this Navy captain who he got promoted to captain kind of quickly, and he'd never been a captain before. And then he was supposed to take over one of the most successful ships in the Navy. But then at the last minute, they changed his assignment, and he took over one of the worst ships in the Navy. So it's just a horrible ship. It wasn't performing. Morale was super low. And it talks about how he turned the ship around, literally, and to where all those people, he developed leaders. And it's all about the leader-leader model. How do you develop leaders in others through things like I Intend To? And because he'd never been a captain before, he just went around asking all kinds of questions because he legitimately did not know what he was doing. And so how asking questions and empowering others actually builds up leaders. That's what he talks about in his book, Turn the Ship Around. Kind of similar to Extreme Ownership in the sense that there's all these really cool stories. It brings the book to life. Really great leadership book. Book number 3, The Weekly Coaching Conversation. Now, this is also a highly recommended book internally to managers, leaders, things like that at self-publishing school. But this is a fable. So I really love fables. There's not enough of them in my opinion. So it's kind of like fictional nonfiction. So they teach you through this story. And this book just completely shifted the way I think about leadership. And it shifted me because it's just the one big concept from this book is that you're not a leader, you're a coach. So just completely shifting your mindset from I need to be this leader to I am a coach to my people. And I kind of referenced this earlier, but for me, it was like leadership was just this loose, intangible thing that I couldn't really bite bite my teeth into. I didn't really know what it was. It's like, how do I become a good leader? What does that look like? But as soon as this was shifted to coach, I could, I'm a big football fan, I'm a big Clemson football fan, so I could think, okay, I know what a coach looks like, and I know how I can be a coach, and that's very easy to connect the dots for me. So I started going into all my interactions with my people as their coach. And what does a coach do? A coach develops talent, recruits talent, looks out for the interests of others, helps people gel, puts the team above the individual, all those things. And that's kind of the core of this book, The Weekly Coaching Conversation. Now, I will give one quick disclaimer, and that's that I was very disappointed at the end of this book, because I was thinking the Weekly Coaching Conversation is this huge fable. I'm buying the story, I'm loving it, kind of like Patrick Lencioni's books. He's got a bunch of great fables, and at the very end, it's like, hey, here's the one-page thing that you can take into a meeting, or here's a one-page kind of action guide. And I got to the end of this book, and it was not there. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to get, what is the Weekly Coaching Conversation? Like, this is going to be, a structured thing that I can follow. And it wasn't there. So that was super disappointing. But even still, kind of in spite of that, I really loved the book, and that just changing of my mindset around those coaching conversations was hugely valuable. And that's why I've also created some videos on how to run meetings and how to run one-on-ones. So hopefully that'll fill in the gaps for you on that weekly coaching conversation. Book number 4, Multipliers. This is a really great book, and quite frankly, actually one that I need to go back and reread at least a couple more times. But it talks about subtractors versus multipliers. And so kind of this concept of, as a leader, are you a subtractor or a detractor, or are you a multiplier? So are you multiplying the talent of your individuals on your team? So great leaders, it's not addition, it's actually multiplication. So you're bringing all these people together, and you are multiplying and investing in their talents and helping the team achieve way greater results than the individual. So highly recommend Multipliers by Liz Wiseman. Book number 5 is The 1 Minute Manager. Now I know this is technically more of a management book than a leadership book, but management and leadership are kind of two fundamental pillars of being a great leader or of being a great CEO. So this is a great book. This is the tried and true. You've probably heard this recommended before. It's super short. It's also a fable, but just good practical fundamentals. So this is often the book that I'll have people start with. So it's like, if you don't have these fundamentals, if you don't know how to do what they would call like the 1 minute praise, the 1 minute reprimand, all those things, it's going to be pretty tough to be a good leader. So read this book to get the fundamentals, and then I'd say go back and read all the other ones. So there you have it. Those are my 5 best leadership and CEO development books of all time. We've got Extreme Ownership, Turn the Ship Around, The Weekly Coaching Conversation, Multipliers, and The 1 Minute Manager. Now, I read over 52 books a year, so about a book a week. So trust me when I say I've combed through all the good ones. Maybe not all the good ones, but most of the good ones. I've still got a lot more to read, and I will keep you updated with these lists as I read more books. But these are the tried and true best books that I've read. And I'll give you one bonus. So kind of a bonus book to read, and that's The Hard Thing About Hard Things. It's a really great book. It's kind of more of a biography. But I really love how he talks about wartime and peacetime CEOs and things like that. That book just rocked my world. I love hearing how people do things, and that was a really great book for that. So there you have it. Those are my top 5 books with a bonus book. I'd love to hear from you. What are your favorite leadership and CEO development books of all time? Comment below with one of them, maybe multiple of them, but comment below. I'm always looking for more books to read on this subject, and I read and respond to every comment. So comment below, let me know what's your favorite book, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Talk soon.